My name is Mr Ayodele Ayenuro, the CEO of AY Educational Consult. So, what I'll be talking on briefly is I hope you can hear me, please.
Yes, we can hear you, sir.
Okay, thank you very much. So what I'll be talking on briefly, the topic before me is failed jam or WAEC. What's next? So, what's the next step? So, we'll be talking about practical guide for student and parents. So I'll be sharing my screen in view of that. Okay. When a student does an exam and there was an issue, maybe the student didn't pass the exam. It's not uh, uh, the end of the journey. So you're not alone. So one result is common, but it is not the end. So it's not the end of the whole journey in your process or in your path to making it in life. Uh, from statistics, 1 in 3 of Nigerian JAM candidates score below university admission benchmarks. So also, one thousands of students retake WAEC or JAM every single year. So, and they go on and on, to thrive, to make sure that they make it in, attempting the exam. So every year, thousands of students, they register of the same exam, JAM exam, WAEC exam. So many different paths beyond the first attempt lead to the exact same destination. So there are many different paths beyond the first attempt. So you don't write yourself off, after making an attempt of an examination for the first time, and you seem not to get the expected result you intend for you to move further in your studies. So it's not the end of the whole journey for you. So you're not alone in the path. So, and it is not the end of the road. So the result is just a data point. It's not a verdict of your future. So it is not the result that will now determine the how your future should be. So you shouldn't write yourself off after first attempt of the exam, and you realize that you didn't make it, you know that you didn't make your papers. So the things we'll be covering in today's roadmap is the first thing is you need to reset your mindset. Know that one result doesn't define you. Also, uh, what are the options that you have after failing JAM? Options that you have after failing JAM. Other options you have. So resitting for the exam, direct entry, and alternative routes. So apart from that, options after failing WAEC. What are the options that you have after failing WAEC? We have GC, NAPTEP, skills pathways, and so on. So apart from that, another roadmap is a step-by-step action plan. A step-by-step action plan that you need to execute for you to forge ahead and move further. So also we have guidance for parents, how to support without adding pressure. Because there is some parent not being sensitive to their children. They instead of guiding them, they seems to put them under pressure. So what are the guidance that parent needs? So those are the things we'll be covering uh in this session. Okay, so the next slide. Thank you. So your mindset first. You need to understand that not making your paper is a delay, it's not a dead end. So you need to have that mindset first and foremost. So you need to have that mindset. Very, very important. You need to have such mindset. It is, a delay, not a dead end. So it's not the end of your life. So the result you have, in attempting it and you didn't make it, it is just one attempt, not your intelligence. It is not your character, it's not your potential. So so apart from that, the emotional dips is we also need to look at the emotional aspect. Disappointment, shame, or fear about what will people say are natural. Name it. They are natural, so it's normal thing. What will people say? Oh, for me having this result, what are they going to, what will be their thoughts towards me, in me not because I didn't make my papers. Those things are actually normal thing. So it's something you shouldn't count as, something that you should dwell on and be reminded of not be so encumbered by what people are going to say about, because it's actually a normal thing. People would talk, you understand? So it's one of those things that occurs in life. So apart from that, you also need to ask yourself, ask what now, not why me. So when you are asking yourself why me, you are still dwelling in the past. You need to move on. Dwelling in the past doesn't change what has occurred in the past. But when you ask yourself, what now? That's what's next step for me now. It means that you're ready to forge ahead. You're not ready to be, delayed with, what happened, with the result you have. So every minute spent on blame is a minute spent on growth. When you spend time blaming yourself, uh is you are supposed to, use that time to spend it on the next concrete step you're about to make. So you'll be wasting a whole lot of time. You'll be dragging yourself back to the past if you're, spending minutes on blaming yourself. So you just have to move on and, take the bold step of the next thing to do. I hope you can all hear me, please.
Yes, we can hear you, sir.
Yes,
All right,
sir.
thank you. All right, thank you. So what are the pathways? So the next slide, what are the pathways if you missed your jam cutoff? So here is your move. What are the pathways? So what can you do if you miss a jam cutoff mark, of the course you intend to study? So you can next cycle. So you can register for the next exam that will be coming up the next year. So instead of dwelling in the past. So uh so most candidates who improve significantly do so on a second, better prepared attempt. So the result you had that hindered you from not meeting up with the cutoff mark, we should be a tool for you to sit down and see what are the loopholes, because it will help you to improve on your way of attempting the first exam you did, so that you would do better. So instead of ruminating over the past, you sit again for the exam. So, and in the process of registering and sitting again for the exam, you have to think of steps on how you'll be able to improve significantly to have a better attempt for a better result. So apart from that, you can do change of institution or course choice. Uh, when you realize that you don't meet up to a particular cutoff mark for a particular course, you can do a change of course form. Immediately after JAM result comes out, the JAM body, they releases what is called change of course or institution form. So what you do is that, okay, if you realize that, okay, maybe you didn't score up to uh 200, for example, if your score was 180 something, and you realize that there are some universities that accept 180, most, especially most schools from the eastern, some schools, not most schools, some schools from the northern part, and even some from the western part, so that accept 180. So you can change your institution to that university, so that you'll be able to you go for their post UTME. And if you're changing your changing the course, it's very important. You need to take note that they will only accept when you change it to first choice. So when you're doing that, you have to change it to the school accepting that score, and also changing of the course. So apart from that, you also have some another option, that's JUPEB or IGMB direct entry. So JUPEB or IGMB direct entry is a 1 year A level style program, that will lead you straight into 200 levels. So if when you register for JUPEB or IGMB, it's a year program, a year course for A levels. So now sitting or attending the lectures, writing the exam, endeavoring to make sure that you do well, and avoid distraction. You will, instead of getting admission straight to the 100 level, you go straight into 200 level. So apart from that, you also have pre-degree programs, remedial programs. So some university run foundation programs that bridge into full degree admission. So those are the pathways that will help you, if you don't meet up with jam cutoff. So the next one is, if you missed your WIAC grades, so your next move for you to sit for, can sit for WIAC. One thing about WIAC now is that every year now, in the past, GC exam used to be once, but recently, they've changed it to twice in a year. So when you, as you're registering for when you register for YA, you can also register for GC. Like this point now, this season now, we have what is called the second series registration for GC. So why you've written the YA, or you realize that your YA result wasn't good enough, you can also register for GC. GCE and Y is actually the same body organizing the exam. The only difference is that one is private and one is public. When you say private and public, that's why GC is private, because it's not based on the school you attended as a student. You register as an external candidate. You go to the center wearing, your mufti. But if it's WAEC, it has to be based. You have to register under a particular school, and you wear the uniform of the school and all that. So that's actually the difference. If you go to get your certificate, GC certificate or original result, it is still WAEC body that will be there. So it's actually the same body. So you can put in for GC. We have first series, we have second series. First series is always early in the year. That's before WIAC. Is always around February, March, while the second series towards October, November. So you can register for either of that, so as to uh, be able to meet up for the cutoff, that, or the grades that you want. So you can also try NECO as an alternative. NECO exam comes immediately after WIAC. So immediately you write your WIAC, while waiting for the result, you can also put in for NECO. So that you have two options. You have that, okay, as you're expecting this result, you can also register for NECO, so that you'll be able to use either of the result, that meet or best to the grades that you want. So you also have NAPTEP for technical and vocational routes. So recognized certification that also opens polytechnics and college admission. So NAPTEP is also another option that you can use. So in the process of preparing, you can also build a skill while you prepare. A trade or digital skill keeps you productive and earning while you plan the receipt. So as you're planning, if you don't want to go with other option, and you prefer that, okay, you want to receipt, why planning to receipt, you can develop yourself with skills. A whole lot of tech skills now that you can learn going online on YouTube. We have different websites, that give you access for you to learn, a lot of digital skills. So in that, you're also improving yourself, developing yourself personally. So that's another option. Building a skill while um, waiting to take the exam the next year. So the next slide, you have to take action. So your next 30 days, you need to take action. Your next 30 days, you need to take action starting now. So the first thing you do is process and assess. So allow the disappointment, then request result review. So checking if you suspect an error. So you are trying to assess yourself based on the results you did. You know, uh you're trying to process, things that occur during the exam, and trying to assess yourself, looking at, what led to the result you have if you observe an error. So uh that's for the week one. So taking action within 30 days. That's week one. Week two, choose your route. choose 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 your route. When I say choose your route, compare result versus Jubeb slash IGMB if you want to go for that, or GC, or you want to take skills route. So you want to choose the next route you want to take, if for you to prepare for that exam, or for you to develop yourself skillfully while you register next. So that's for second week. Third week is for you to register and resource. Sign up for the chosen exam or program. That's after you've been able to choose your route. Now you register for what you've decided to do, if it's for the tech skills or digital skills, or the other examination options that you have. Sign up for the chosen exam or program, gather past questions and a study plan. So while you're developing yourself, if you don't want to choose other option, while you're developing yourself with tech and digital skills, you also have to be preparing towards the exam next year, so that you will perform better than before. So for the fourth week, you build routine. So set a realistic daily study schedule and start. Momentum beats intensity. So you have to be intentional with your routine. So you don't just build routine or personal reading timetable just for building sake. No, you have to be intentional about it. And anything that will cause a distraction for you not to meet up to that, you have to work on it, because you are disciplining yourself so as to be able to cover the loopholes that occurs in the last exam. So next slide. So you have to stay on check, stay on track. The next slide, stay on track. So you don't sabotage your own comeback. So don't sabotage your own comeback. What do I mean by that? So you're bouncing back, don't sabotage it. So registering for a receipt without reviewing what went wrong the first time. So when you want to receipt, so what are the ways in which you won't sabotage your coming back? Registering for a receipt without, reviewing what went wrong. Because when you're able to review what went wrong, you'll be able to know, the steps, the things you need to take note of, so as to avoid what happened in the results that you got that wasn't okay. So the next is choosing a course or route because of pressure from family or peers that you're not fit for. You have to check your capacity. Some people, even before they get to senior class, some go to science class. Oh, because my friend is going to science class. No. So you have to check, okay, what is my capacity? What will I be able to? Because university life is different from secondary school life. So if I'm choosing a career for myself, am I ready for it? If I say, okay, I want to do a professional exam course, like medicine, study law, and you don't have all it takes. I'm not saying that other courses doesn't require discipline, but I'm saying that you need to uh choose a course that that it's not as a result of pressure, but as a result of your ability. So the next is waiting until the last week before a registration deadline to start preparing. That is an error. That's a red flag. You don't wait till the last week of the exam before you start preparing. Last week of the exam should be a time that you're just, you're revising all what you have read. So you have to start preparation on time. So that can sabotage your bouncing back. So comparing your timeline to a sibling or classmate instead of your own plan. So you will be sabotaging yourself if you're comparing yourself with your siblings or classmates. So you have to avoid that. Ignoring emotional well-being while pushing through study pressure. So don't ignore your emotional well-being. It's also very, very important. So many people has gone into depression because, oh, they didn't do well. Some are even commit suicide. So you don't have to get to that point. You what now? Do not ignore your emotional well-being. So as I'm as I round up, so I have just few slides left for parents. So what are the support? How will you support your kids? Your children. You don't pressure them. You will not be helping your kids, your words, if you pressure them. Oh, why is it that, oh, look at Kunle, look at the Kunle's result, why is it that your own result is not? No, that's not what has happened. Has happened. So you have to so you don't pressure them. It's very, very important. You don't pressure them, because that can be very discouraging to the children. So you lead with resources before problem. s- Lead with reassurance. So encourage your children and reassure them, that they can still do well, that they shouldn't give up, not pressurizing them. Ask what your child want to explore, then guide. It's very important. We shouldn't allow social media to groom our children. We should be involved in everything that has to do with their lives, in their education, everything that has to do with their life. So you need to uh get involved. Engage your children. Ask them what they want to explore and guide them. It will help them. It will make them feel that they are what now? They are loved. Involve them in choosing the next step. Involve them in choosing the next step. So you need to get involved in the next step that they want to choose. Get involved with them. So keep comparison with other children out of the conversation. That can be very discouraging. Do not compare your children with other children, because the pace of every children is different. So the fact that they are in the same class doesn't mean that, oh, they will have the same result. They won't be discouraged, so that they won't have emotional problems. So you don't compare your children with other words. So before you go, your quick start checklist. Some of the things that you can do. Get your result reviewed. Recheck if you suspect an error. List three realistic pathway options for your situation. So three realistic ways in which you can rewrite the errors. So set a registration deadline later this week. So this is like what you need to do today. So you set a registration deadline. Take Talk to one mentor, teacher, or counselor before deciding. So engage someone that you know that is like a mentor, a teacher, a counselor, that can help you even in the process of your decision. So start. Even 30 minutes of study today beat a perfect plan tomorrow. So the best way to take a bold step in your changing or in your improvement in your result is for you to start. Make the bold step. Don't procrastinate. Start. Even if you're starting with 30 minutes, start. As you build that, for you to increase it to 1 hour, 2 hours won't be difficult. But if you don't start, it's not something automatic. So uh a checklist doesn't guarantee a smooth road, but it guarantees that you are moving. So it guarantees that you are not stagnant, but you're moving. So your story isn't over. One result is one chapter, not the whole story. So whatever path you choose next, choose it on purpose. So your story isn't over by the result you have. So it's just one chapter. So you still have a lot of chapters, in the book of your life that you need to open. So whatever step or path you want to take next, you choose it on purpose. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, sir.